6 o'clock. So with that, we'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Aguajita Oaks, Alta Mesa, Casanova Oak Knoll, Deer Flats.
President online.
Thank you. Del Monte Beach, Del Monte Grove, Laguna Grande, the downtown, Fisherman's Flats, Glenwood, Monterey Vista, New Monterey, Oak Grove,
Here.
Old Town. Skyline and Via Del Monte.
Here.
Well, there's Old Town. She just walked in.
Hey, just wanted to say that I'm here from Aguajita Oaks as well.
Thank you.
Right. So with that, I think the next thing for us is to read the introduction, how to participate.
And I can do that. Thank you. Say welcome everyone to tonight's NCIP Neighborhood and Community Improvement Program Committee meeting. Just for those that we just didn't know, today is our 10th NCIP related meeting for this year. All right, so how to participate in this meeting. Written comment. Members of the public may submit comments to engineering-admin@monterey.org until 1/2 hour before the start of the meeting. These messages are not read aloud during the meeting, but are made available to the meeting body and public on the monterey.org/submitted-comments website. All comments received become part of the record. In person, please see, so we're here, you can make public comment at the podium. Remote via Zoom.gov, join on a computer or smartphone at monterey.org.zoomgov.com. If you go to iSearch Monterey, you could find the latest agenda with the link. You can join by telephone. Enter webinar ID 161-313-7270 pound or hashtag. Okay, so public comment procedures and time limits. Total amount of time allocated for public comment on a particular issue and for each individual speaker is generally up to 3 minutes per speaker, and it will be 15 minutes public comment period for items not on the agenda and 30 minutes for public appearance items. And that can be changed at the discretion of the chair. And that's how to participate in this evening's meeting. Back to you, Jamie.
So, with that, the first thing we'll do is open the floor up for public comment. The public comment period is for a public to comment on anything that's not on tonight's agenda. And so, I see a show of hands of how many people are here to make public comment on something not on the agenda. So I think we can stick with our normal 3 minutes, and online. Any public comment? No. All right, and you see Oak Grove this year?
Yes, that was received. Thank you.
All right, so then let's start with public comment.
Good evening. I'll keep this really brief. I'm sure all of you are of like opinion that the way that the city council went about eliminating 3 members from the committee before the process was over this year was definitely not the optimal thing to do. And at the joint city council NIP committee meeting, I didn't hear there being much of a resolution about that. I heard that disappointment being expressed in city council. So I was just wondering, I know you can't answer me in public comment, but what the process moving forward is going to be like, and if you need a citizen's voice to be heard, you can count on me, because I can see that this was not a good thing that they did, and I know that the mayor and the city council's hands were not tied. They could have postponed this until after the process was done. So you can add my words to support, not do that next. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Uwe Grobecker, and I'm running for director at the Monterey Airport District Board, District 3 this year. I sent you an email earlier today, which I hope you all saw. I'm just not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to say something what I added since I sent it to you. So, as many of you are aware, we had a significant increase in air traffic in recent years. One pressing issue is the recent increase in late night and early morning flights. These flights are starting to affect our community, including residents who live in remote areas as far as 4 miles from the airport. Having said that, I'm coming to NCIP for the following reason. The question we should ask ourselves is, how much more growth can neighborhoods really tolerate? And what is more important, the health of our residents or a profit-oriented airport district, bringing in more luxury jet setters and soon starting a nonstop international flight? Is this what we want? It is important for NCIP to consider not just ground level improvements, as was done for decades in a very successful way, but with the recent changes also look at the impacts on our neighborhoods from increased air traffic. The NCIP is designed to improve the quality of life for Monterey residents through community-driven projects. Looking at the impacts of airport operations, the NCIP can ensure that community voices are heard and that solutions are developed jointly, fostering a sense of ownership. Regulatory compliance and funding is outlined in Part 150 of the Federal Noise Compatibility Program, can make our neighborhoods eligible for federal grants to fund noise mitigation projects, such as replacing all of our windows for the residents located within the FAA flight path, for example. Maybe that will draw their attention. But we will need to ask for it, otherwise it's not going to happen. I will speak at our city council meeting next week, since I believe that the city leaders need to get involved, including the rest of the community. Several grand jury's request for a citizen committee on the airport district board is a significant recommendation aimed at enhancing transparency and community involvement. And as I mentioned already in my letter earlier, the airport district board flat rejected such recommendation. I see very little community input at the airport, primarily because the airport administration does not make it easy to participate in the decision-making process and rather ignores people from our community. They have 8 o'clock in the morning meetings once a month. Usually I'm the only one there. I would like to invite you to participate, and I would like you supporting, I'd like you to support this matter. Please get involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Any public comment online?
There are no raised hands online.
We'll close the public comment section of this meeting, and I believe the next thing on the agenda is to approve some minutes.
Yes.
Oh, everybody had a chance to take a look at minutes. Are there any changes in the documents? No? Oh, wait a second. You got a second from Scott. All right. All in favor?
Do you have it?
Aye. I think we're allowed to be a verbal vote, right?
Yes.
Any opposed?
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, motion passed. So that's it for minutes. So what we have on the first item on the agenda is a spokesperson report. The second item on the agenda is the primary business for this meeting. I have some welcome comments that are associated with that kind of business. So I'll just, save those until we go down there. But I do have a quick spokesperson report. There was a recent joint meeting held between the NCIP committee and the city council. Most of you were there, but some were not. But even if you were there, I think there's a few points that we probably want to clarify for everybody. There's 3 points that I'm going to bring out of that meeting and clarify and or share it with you tonight. One is this about the city's input on projects. One is about input from the neighbors. and one is about maintenance. Those were three primary things. At the meeting, we talked with the city and with the city council about getting the city's input. A number of city NCIP members said, oh, well, you should tell us. I want to clarify, that's untrue. They do already tell us, they don't need to tell us, they're already telling us. So I think that maybe there's some confusion on some parts of the members here. We do get information from the city about what their priorities are. The city council has also given this committee some general guidance. We like you to look for maintenance. We like you to look at safety. And those have been ongoing priorities provided by the city council to this. So that's probably a process that's already there. Maybe we weren't all kind of thinking about it in that major. Second point, very interesting. I've seen this in city council meetings as a point as well. At that meeting, we talked about neighbors and neighborhood input. Representatives of committee represent every person in the neighborhood. They do not represent the city council or staff. They do not represent the desires of the neighborhood president or the neighborhood association. I've personally been put on the spot because I've had the neighborhood association coming at me for something that they wanted that the rest of the neighborhood did. This committee represents every person in the neighborhood. That's your constituents. Okay? This is a challenge. And this is the hard part about being a representative because there's no budget and there's no structure for how you receive that input. So you need to, and this is kind of for you guys, you're going to be doing this from now until next spring. You need to attend neighborhood meetings and talk with neighborhood leaders. You need to speak at neighborhood events. You need to use email lists, whatever email list you can find. You need to talk with people as you walk around the neighborhood. You need to put up posters. You need to include write-ups in neighborhood newsletters. And you need to do surveys. You need to gather the public input. That includes online surveys, which are free, print and distribute ballots if you like, set up an answering machine so people can call, set up an email so people can email in. There's no end to the creativity that the existing members have used, but you must all gather the input from the people in your neighborhood. Because I did hear a city council member saying, well, nobody's asked me. And it's hard. You're not going to be able to ask every single person, but you have to gather the consensus from your neighborhood because that's who you represent in this meeting. You as a representative do not have an overriding opinion. And no one can tell you what to do. So, and again, I've had that situation directly. So I want to clarify that was a little unclear in the meeting, and I'm not sure that was understood by the city council. Now, the city staff are asking for a ballot measure to permanently take a significant portion of NCIP funds away in the name of maintenance. And spokespersons have been attending several city meetings, but I don't know if you all have seen those. And this is a big deal. It was voter approved that the NCIP program be set up the way it's set up. People like it. They're thinking that it works the way it is. They wouldn't be expecting to be losing a portion of that money. So one of the things I wanted to address really quickly is the lack of maintenance that was discussed. It's a little bit of a red herring. And so I wanted to just put together a couple slides to talk about the lack of maintenance. If we can throw those up. And I also have this in a handout. So after we look at this, you can take it home, think about it some more.
Give me 1 second, Jamie. Sorry.
Probably go start shuffling papers around. You have one? I think I have enough. Oh, I have enough, right. So if you do it the first slide for me, Reggie, that'd be awesome. So in the meeting, we saw slides that talks about the amount of money that NCIP gets versus the amount of money that CIP gets. So if we go to the second slide.
Is this the one you want?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. So slide number 2.
Oh, it's up. I mean, maybe your.
Oh, thank you. No, slide the previous slide.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. So, it's not updating upline. Oh, okay. Let me.
So this is what was presented in the meeting, and the concept that was presented in the meeting is that the blue lines, which is the NCIP revenue, is taller than the orange lines, which is the CIP revenue. And the NCIP is getting more money, and that money is causing hardship and an additional burden for the city. of maintenance because of all of those new things that NCIP is building. So I went back, I took the input from a senior city engineer who had evaluated which projects were maintenance and which projects were not for the last 20 years. I pulled all the dollar amounts for those projects out and took a look at it. But first, if you could go to the second slide.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Give me some, I'm having technical difficulty over here.
Well,
Well, no, I think I'm having the same issue even with my presentation, so I think I need to try and figure this out. Sorry.
And by the way, we did not have this all in one place, so I was up a little bit late the last few nights, so sorry for the look. It took a while to add all those numbers up, but we have 20 years of CIP added up. Because that's what technologists do.
I'm sorry. Give me one. For some reason, yeah, I'm trying to figure out why it's not updating online.
Yep, there we go.
You might want to add safety in this, think about.
Safety, maintenance, and there's like 3 big ones. There's a public health, essential maintenance, public health, safety. Those are the overriding guidelines that the NCIP committee has been working on for a number of years.
Is it updating now, Jamie?
It's updating.
Okay, all right, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Second round. So a couple of things I noticed when I started looking at the numbers are, number one, the blue lines are the revenue of the city received. But the city didn't give that revenue to the NCIP committee, so it didn't have it to spend. So the NCIP committee got all that extra revenue all at once, and that's the green line on the end. So they're showing it year after year where the committee had it and used it, but it didn't have it. Right, number one. Number two, they're showing 3 years where it says the NCIP got this money. The NCIP didn't get that money. That money was taken directly by the city. So no, that was not NCIP funding spent by NCIP. 3, during the double years that are marked off where we didn't get money, the city also went back and closed all of the existing NCIP projects out and took that was over $10 million. So most of those blue lines went to 0. So those are 3 things that really didn't show, but actually that wasn't why I was digging around in the numbers. If you can go to the third slide. The reason I was digging around in the numbers is this. Based on what Mr. Reza, senior city engineer, had done in evaluating projects that we had done, over 55% of the projects that NCIP has funded are maintenance projects. When you add up the money for those maintenance projects and add them to the CIP, you will see the blue line here is NCIP without maintenance in it. The red line is CIP with NCIP maintenance in it. And now you can see, because at first, gosh, how can the city afford to put so little into capital projects? It's because NCIP has been spending a significant amount of money on those big maintenance things. This is fire suppression. This is storm drains. This is all stuff that's not sexy, but the neighbors are evaluating it and determining if there are issues there and making sure it gets done. So the conversation that's been had at the last couple of meetings is kind of buried in the presentation from the city, is that there's a desire to take base funding away from NCIP to pay for maintenance of NCIP projects, but those projects are maintenance projects. So it's not that we're putting a burden onto the city, we're lifting the burden. And so that's a concept of maintenance that I think will be helpful. So I want you to take this home and look at it, bring it back and understand it, go and talk to more people and understand it, because it hasn't come across really clear. And so as a spokesperson, those are the things. And the reason I'm pointing this out is that overall, honestly, I don't think the joint meeting helped the city council to understand this very much. And so I think there's still a job for every representative to talk with city council and make sure that we have that understanding one person at a time. And I would say to wrap it up, the people in the community like NCIP, I think that it's going to be a big job for a liaison from this committee working with the representatives from the city council to further the education so that there can be a greater understanding. And that was kind of the takeaway from that meeting that we had. And that's the entity spokesperson report. Work to do in communication. So I don't think we have any comments on spoken report, do we? Nope.
Not Jim, no,
Oh, question.
but you, yeah.
Question. There's the maintenance when we take a project, i.e. the firehouse, and we repair it. We do that kind of thing. But then there's another side of maintenance that is not covered in NCIP. And I'm wondering if we can maybe fix that. And the prime example is when, I'll use my neighborhood. 2010, I had a radar sign put in, worked wonderfully. Well, along came the homeless and took off my solar panel. They took off some other parts of it. And it doesn't work, obviously. So I made the phone calls I'm supposed to parks, to Public Works, et cetera. Oh, no, we don't repair that. That was an NCIP project. So what's going to happen with that kind of a
I
category?
believe that's a good example that was brought out in the last meeting, and one of the things that wasn't responded to was NCAP is constantly replacing the signs. So we pay for the maintenance on the sign we put in.
Yeah.
That's
Which I was told, now you have to put it in as a new project. And I said, do I get a new radar signs or this new parts? So being it's been since 2010, I'm anticipating it's an artifact and belongs in the museum. And I'm going to ask for a new radar signing application. Thank you.
Good. Okay. So that's the spokesperson comment. I believe then the next item on the agenda is the review project list recommended to city council for the fiscal year 2025. And so let me give y'all, because there's a bunch of new people here, let me give you a little bit of oh, is there a staff report?
There is,
Oh,
but I just wanna, all right, so we'll stop sharing this. Thanks. Yes, I do have another presentation. Before we get to,
well,
those
explain-
items.
Explain to folks what they're looking at here. So maybe it was helpful for me to set the stage and then we'll leave in that staff report. Because we have new people here tonight. And so I think you need to understand what the meeting is for.
Yeah, that's fine.
So basically, this is the last meeting in the cycle of meetings for NCIP. So we'll do an in-depth orientation in January, but just so you can get perspective on what's happening. The public submits ideas for projects, any idea you have, all year long. Middle of February, those things are all submitted to the city. Your job from now till February is to gather those ideas when they're coming your way. Okay? Then during the meeting cycle, there will be 3 pieces of work that NCIP committee does. One is considering whether it's a valid NCIP project. So you might want to know now that generally means capital project. It means bolted in the ground. That's just kind of the way. But we don't buy a street sweeper that drives over the ground. We buy things that bolted in the ground and fix. So one. Second meeting, you look at the mechanical specifics of the project to understand it in detail. Where is that curve going? What is the equipment that's going to be purchased? And third, we gather public input on the projects that have been proposed. 1, 2, 3. We've got all 3. We have voting night. The voting night's in June. As of that point in time, we just had an estimate. What happens is then the city goes out and takes a look in detail at what was being discussed and specs it out and gets us with a detailed cost. Tonight is the night where we look at the detailed cost for those things that we voted and appealed for back in June. And the reason we put this meeting on the calendar was to be sure that the final estimate for cost aligns with what was approved. So for example, if we approve a drinking fountain for $2,000 and the final cost on the list today is $200,000. It's the committee's job to say, you know, I'm not sure that you estimated those funds. I'm not sure the project could be for bigger than those. That's why they put this meeting on this, is to take advantage and look at the list of the final numbers. Because in prior years, we used to have final numbers of voting, and now we don't. So that's the overview for tonight. And then, as I said, after tonight, we'll begin evaluating this in the next cycle. So that's the overview for tonight. So now we're going to do the report.
Okay, well, yeah, I do have a report that kind of precedes the actual agenda items. So I'll give that briefly and then we'll jump into the agenda. I think Jamie gave a good description on the process, and this kind of what this chart shows here as well. So I won't repeat that. I'll just get into some of the workings here of the program recently. So since the last couple of meetings, we've actually completed 2 projects in the city here for people that aren't aware maybe. One was Veterans Park West parking lot. That renovation project's been completed. And we've energized the street light on the other side of Monterey High School. That's Villa Del Rey and Herman Drive. Have a couple photos. So this is what the new parking lot looks like, including an ADA parking stall that was not there previously. So that's an addition to the parking lot, plus new pavement and parking stall striping. And then this is a picture of the street light before it was energized, but it's on that corner going into the high school on one of the parking lots on the backside up the hill. Additionally, so that leaves us right now with 58 active NCIP projects with a budget roughly of $10.4 million. We are looking at, well, actually, we have awarded, I believe it's 10, maybe as many as 11 NCIP projects to a contractor this recently to work on. They're mostly traffic related projects. And so we should hope to see some progress soon on those. I'll report back. And we're actively working 19 projects right now, including, where is it? One of which is the, for those that live in the Casanova Oak Knoll neighborhood, where Parks Department is in the process of installing a new fence along the park exterior, park perimeter. So that's in progress. We're just waiting on maybe roughly 20 feet, maybe less of fencing to complete that project. So as soon as that comes in, that'll be done. Some of the other projects we're working on, forest management's ongoing, the old Capitol site plan, that's coming to a conclusion, and Parks Department will be presenting at the end of the month. So there'll be a presentation to Parks and Rec Commission on the old Capitol site plan. So keep an eye out for that. We've ordered radar speed sign equipment for a new location at Casanova Oak on Casanova Avenue in Del Monte Grove. The neighborhood security cameras contracting is happening in the background. So the police department is working on that. That will have some funds. They'll be supported by funds from NCIP. The license plate readers. So that is, the contract is moving through the process. Some other projects, San Burnaby Drive in Monterey Vista, we're actively working on that. We've had a number of projects in contracting. These are large efforts. Casa Verde Rec Trail Crossing, Casa Verde Rec Trail Crossing Construction Management. Those are 2 very large projects or contracts that have been in the works for quite some time. And Mark Thomas separated bike path contract. We're pending award. That's going to go to City Council soon for award on that. And we're working parallel on design of the trail and pathway. Then we also have two basketball court designs that are moving along, one at Via Prizzo Park and one at Veterans Park. And we're looking to combine those two and award them together to get some benefit from, just, I guess we'll call it just bulk, pull them together. And we are looking at a couple other things here. I know we have Webster, Camino El Estero Crossing and Rapid Flash and Beacon. That's also in design. So we've been very busy. And then I had a couple other things here I was gonna, so that's pretty much the report on that. Oh, I have one other thing here, one other slide. I'm sorry, I'm jumping. Where is it? Doesn't look like. Okay, it doesn't look like I have, oh no, here it is, sorry. So last calendar year, 2023, we completed 15 projects. And this year to date, we've completed 13. So I think we're on pace to complete more projects. And then I know everyone's interested in the money. So I kind of went back and looked, okay, so what have we spent recently? So in FY 2021, we spent roughly $2.7 million. 21-22 was impacted by COVID, obviously. Spending is down. 22-23, 1.6 million roughly. And then this past fiscal year, which closed on June 30, 1.7 million. So hopefully, I think one of our goals is to get back up to, the 2.7 range where we're running or more. Because as we have talked about, there's quite a bit of funding for the NCIP program and a lot of projects to do.
Well, thank you, Bridgie. And I will point out 40% of the projects being worked on right now is an amazing percentage of coverage. And so I think that every neighborhood really appreciates that energy and getting that done. So, thank you. And also, I think as far as the money goes, we should, So thank you.
All right. So that's my report. And then I don't know if anyone has questions, but then we can jump into the items. Okay. Okay, so then in the packet agenda items, so let me pull that up.
I have one question against
Okay.
regarding all previous projects.
Mhm.
I get questions from people like, what's the schedule for my project? Is there, and I had mentioned this half a year ago, we look at other projects, is there, I know you pick certain projects because, I don't know, they're easier to do or doable or whatever, but can we somehow get somewhat of an answer to people, like where projects are in line and where, so we can give some feedback to people other than we don't know?
So yes, I also received a similar question on Tuesday at the Planning Commission meeting. So I'll try and give the same answer. We're working on I have an idea. My goal is to have this information available on the NCIP website under Public Works, where it would be anyone at any time can go on it and get that information. Currently, we don't have it updated. It's not available on the website currently. So that is something that it's one of my things that I'm working on. And I'd also, as I said on Tuesday, I'd also like to have it paired with like a GIS map where people could go in and they could click on, if you don't know the name of it, okay, roughly where it is, you could find it that way. So I guess in the interim, you can always email me and I can get you a response pretty quickly on where we are with a project.
But
I guess the question is, what happens to projects who aren't, in production now? Would it help if NCIP prioritized past projects or something to give?
So
indication, or is it more efficient for you to pick the projects that are most efficiently done in the current situation, or?
Well, I would say input's always appreciated. You could provide input. I generally, the way I've been prioritizing projects is based on vote ranking. So if you look, what I've tried to do is projects that are, say the top 10, I grab those kind of in one bucket and I try to go through. So, for example, projects that were 2023, I think we've completed all of the top 10, maybe with one or two exceptions. And now we're working into the 2024 projects and we're working on those, top 10. And then, yes, we're pulling projects forward in different ways, like, for example, the basketball courts, right? So we're pulling those and saying, okay, well, let's do, if you do one basketball court design, it's not much more effort to do a second basketball court, right? So let's pull those. Or like the ones like the traffic related projects or streetlight related projects, right? You can kind of bundle those and pull them all at once. We can work on them kind of more efficiently because, again, you're working with the same, vendors, you're working with the same contractors or PG&E, right? So it's kind of, so in those cases, they don't necessarily fall consecutively, but, we're trying to get more done. So the ones that tend to fall, say, to the side that don't get done, more rapidly are ones that tend to have more complexity. They need a higher level of permitting, right? Some of them are in the coastal zone. They have to go to coastal commission, which, raises the difficulty or complexity, or they need a higher level of design. Right. So, I mean, installing a radar speed sign, right? You do need to get the neighbors, right, approval to put, say, near or adjacent or in front of their house. But I mean, those are kind of just off the shelf, right? We could just say, we know what to do. We can award that to, our contractor who's on call. That's something that typically can get done a little bit faster, than a road widening project, which, it's going to take design, like we're looking at the one in San Burnaby right now, for example. And, we're saying, okay, well, what can we do? Because it's right on the cusp of this drainage channel, right? So if we do work in the drainage channel, that's going to raise the kind of level of permitting that's required. If we move a few of the features in, in this design phase, then we can maybe do less permitting because we have less impact on the natural environment. So it really depends. And that's not a great answer, but
It's a better answer than we've ever had. Using the vote count is awesome. And in the past, it's been much more haphazard. So vote count is good. Batching, so we get better pricing and you get efficiencies is good. So, and I would say at 40% being worked on, that's working. So I would just put it back to the committee members. If there's work you can do, like gathering the input from the neighbors for the placement of the sign, then maybe we can help it further. So definitely need communication. Yes.
My question is the can of worms, but I think NCIP made a decision on this, when we began this season's work. Just to clarify our positions, because there's always somebody in the audience that goes, well, I put my project in 20 years ago, nothing's been done, or they only did phase one, or whatever. My understanding is that they're back so far, things have changed, prices have changed. It may need a different design now and because of environment or the laws or permits or something. My understanding that like a lot of those old projects are done. Like they're on the shelf, they're over. If it hasn't been done, it's time to put in a new project for that. So clarification.
So clarifying. So what we did actually talk about at a previous meeting, but it wasn't an agenda item. First of all, old 20-year projects are all gone because the money was taken in it. Right. So the question that's being asked is that the city has been putting them back on the list like they were being asked for again. And I believe in the last cycle, we did determine as a committee that we no longer wanted old projects brought forward.
Right.
So for that February deadline, you're gonna need to look at last year's list of what wasn't approved and decide with your neighborhood which of those you're going to submit again, because none of the old projects would be submitted for you this coming February. And then what happens when those are submitted in this cycle is they'll be looked at fresh. So that's a good clarifying question.
Yes,
So-
so I wanted everybody to understand that, so that we're all starting fresh, because there's always gonna be somebody that'll throw it out there. And we're starting fresh. I'm gonna put in for a new radar sign.
And yes, you are. Thank you, Lee. Any other comments or questions on the staff report? So I think,
Public comment on me?
yeah, do you have public on the staff report?
No, not generally.
Agenda, can we have?
Yeah, but
public
sure, she can have public.
I just want to get it right. Your opinion is appreciated.
Sharon White, New Lottery resident. Just to talk about this vote count approach and saying the top 10 get it. And then the next year, there's another top 10. I want to say the first ones who got approved should be ahead of the next year. There are projects that go 2 or 3 years before they get approval. And if they hit the top 10, it's not fair that they are going ahead of the projects that were approved the prior year. I understand that what is being said, and to a certain extent, it makes a lot of sense. But not if you're saying you're going to take the top 10 of the new year and leave those other 20 back there and have them someday hope to get attention. Fine to go ahead, and quite frankly, I think you ought to look at the top 10, and those tend to be your tree maintenance, your big projects for the city. I mean, you've been really generous and you're taking care of citywide, lovely. The neighborhood projects are the little ones that come later. They need to be addressed in the year order that they were approved. That's what's fair. Thank you.
Close the doors. The other thing is kind of a point of order. I don't see this on the agenda. This
Staff
item,
report?
I mean, it goes right in. I think we're on number 3. Or
I know.
No, we're not quite at 3 yet.
I skipped it because I was.
Yeah, we skipped ahead. We're out of order.
There you go. The reason is that if you look at the numbers on the screen, using some fuzzy logic, it's averaging like $2 million a year. If you're bringing in $6 million a year, I mean, I appreciate the good work that's being done. I guess the flip side of that is that you're accumulating $4 million a year of backlog. And that's not a very tenable situation either, because that's just accumulating 4 million, 8 million, 12 million, 16 million, blah, blah, blah. So you can see kind of where the holes are going to go. And the other thing I was noticing is that one of my pet projects, which is the recreation trail pavers along Lighthouse Curve, it's going to be fall here shortly. We're going to have a muddy stretch of recreation trail. And I didn't see that as any one of the projects that's in the works. And I think that's one that should be attended to. It's been waiting for a long time, which is a lot of. Anyhow, so that's definitely a go. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments on the staff report? And so I jumped out of order because I missed the staff report. The next one on the agenda is NCIP informational reports. And that is committee members may supply information on past projects or activities or announcements to the committee to request clarification or direction. And I think we've kind of actually been doing that in conjunction with the staff. Are there any other items that the committee wishes to bring forward to ask for clarifying or to report? Okay. Seeing none. So we covered the spokesperson report. Now, public appearance,
Yes.
number 3.
This is
And this
yes.
is the one where I was trying to get you all set the stage. So this is the last meeting in the cycle. We've done all the work. We're just checking to make sure that nothing changed. So, I think staff has a presentation.
Yes,
Amy, I guess, some of these concerns that we have about getting, how many projects you get done, how much we get in, so forth. I'm wondering if it's worth, we have another meeting, so maybe a subgroup of people to actually, person, the whole group, I don't know, to discuss our overall process, how we see NCIP. The city has a bunch of issues with us that we really think about our process and, analyze things like Pat Menza suggested or something to keep us from just piling on projects and going right back to where we were before the pandemic, where we had millions and millions of dollars sitting there and projects just not being able to get done. How are we gonna move forward without and avoid repeating past mistakes? And I guess, and that's, how can we do that without actually meeting again or talking about maybe whether we all do it or a subcommittee or whatever, but really things that problem out.
Well, we can definitely put that on the agenda. We also will have on the upcoming meeting a status report on all of the projects. So rather than just the high level, the staff is going to prepare that, and we'll have that in our hands before we start the next step. So we have.
Yeah, but waiting until January, I don't know.
well,
I'd love to do it.
just to point out, right, we can't have a quorum meeting if it's not, publicly noticed and that sort of a thing. So it's important that, yeah, I mean, if I think it's a good discussion. But
No?
And even
I think-
the manual.
So, I think then this is still part of the NCP informational reports. Otherwise, I think we should save this for the comments at the end of the year.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed. Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, we're gonna be here all night. So we will put it forward.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, so now we're gonna jump into item number 3. Okay, let me find, and sorry, I had to pull up, I made some edits to my previous presentation. So, what we have here, so in the agenda packet and the documentation that I provided, we have to make some decisions and go over I guess, the vote from last June 6th. So you have 2 options. Option 1 has the ranking as is, so to speak, that was voted on with 4 cutoff projects. And it includes projects without staff support. Option 2,
The one that was handed out today, is it exactly the same as the one that was distributed?
it is. I just put it in a bigger format. And I have a couple more for anyone who needs one. Yeah. That's at the end.
Last item on the agenda.
Oh, you just pass that. So as you all recall, right, so on June 6th, we had the vote. There were 80 projects that were voted on. And I get, right, so obviously, we can't do all 80 projects, because as we pointed out, those projects came out to roughly $22.4 million in cost, at the cost estimate was roughly $22.4 million, or 24, I'm sorry. Yeah, $24.2 million. And we voted on 80 projects. And so where we are right now, I guess to take one step back, we have roughly $12.2 million available for awarding to projects. Okay, so we can't do all the projects, so we have to select. The way it's traditionally been done is you go down the list till you reach the funding available, cut off, and then those are the projects that are awarded. That's option one. Option two is what I'm calling modified, where I have provided you with a list that has removed the projects without staff support, with the exception of the David Avenue and Terry Avenue crosswalk, which has been added back in, but it's not on that list because it was done after these documents were prepared. So you would pick, in that option, you would be 31 projects with 2 cutoff projects. It's further down on the list. It gets us further down. So you have that information. In addition, on June 6th, the committee recommended that we increase the contingency fund to $1.2 million, which would increase it by roughly $330,000 from where it is today. So we would commit $1.2 million from this 12 million, 12.2, 1.2 would go to contingency. The remaining $11 million would go to projects. And so that's if we agree on the contingency amount, for example, there's 11 million. Yeah, but what we've done with this 12.2, it includes the existing 869,000. So it includes the roughly 6 million of TOT that's coming in, the 4.7 million from previous years, the 1 million that's an ending balance, the 860,000 or 870 that's in contingency currently. Those numbers minus staff expenses, my time generally, that's $12.2 million. Therefore, if we agree with the 1.2 million for contingency, that leaves roughly $11 million for projects.
Said another way, we're gonna up the contingency about 350,
Yes.
which is actually not. So do you want to speak, do we want to speak to the contingency number first and why we analyze that and why we feel that's a sufficient number since we're talking about that?
Well, we voted on it.
We already voted on it. Yes.
So the question was, are we going to, I know Reggie brought it in today because he wanted to be sure that everybody
And we're still,
understood and thought about it. So are you proposing that that's a separate item to be?
it's on the agenda. It's an item that can be voted on. You can leave it as is. We can increase it, decrease it, leave it as is.
So I move that we keep the 1.2 contingency since I asked for it in the voting night meeting. But I think we need to have a contingency so that we can execute projects without having to go back and figure out where we're going to fund it from with all of the projects. And particularly the age of their being project, we should have a good sized contingency.
So there's a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
Second. So the motion and the second are saying keep the contingency at 1.2. We don't need to make any change to that. It still appears to be sufficient based on the project list. Any comments from the committee?
I only have one comment. Do you feel comfortable with that contingency?
Yes, I do. And I added this line here just to for comparison. So last year we raised it, we added $600,000 to the contingency, which brought it up to $954,000. And over the last roughly 12 months, we've only decreased it by less than 100,000. So I would say yes, 1.2 million is a good. It's will get us what we need.
Over budget.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's a good question. Oh, I heard Lee. Was there any comments online for
Can you?
committee members online?
Oh, just a request to share your screen online.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I appreciate that, AJ.
I have another question for you, Reggie. How comfortable are you with the current estimates? I mean, now that we're drawing a contingency line, I noticed we were gonna update a lot of the priority.
While Reggie's working on the technology, let's do some fuzzy math. He said today that he has 10 million in progress already.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at adding 10 million to that with tonight, so that's 20 million. He's got 40% of that 10 million underway, so that's 4 million underway. If we were to be really optimistic and assume that 40 million or 40% of the new money is also underway, that'd be 8 million underway. So 1.2 million and 8 million, about percentage of usually.
No, I am. It just seems like we were gonna refine some of the estimates. And none of the estimates are really.
So we're still, if I could jump in, I don't know, first, AJ, are you seeing the presentation now?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. We're still in the process of updating the estimate. So that's one of the points. They're still not final. The building surveys are still in progress. So, we have a few that may still change. So, but I believe, I mean, for what that's worth, I do believe that the $1.2 million is a reasonable contingency, and I wouldn't recommend changing it.
Other comments from the committee? Other member comments online? All right. So I believe we then take this out to public comment or do we vote?
I think we vote on the motion.
Oh, no. Yeah, you would do public comment before you vote. Yeah. On the contingency.
See motion to approve contingency.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, my name is Rick Hoyer. I guess my question is, how often do you have to keep voting the same vote that you've already done? This was decided vote night and voted on. So I guess, yeah, since the agenda is you could change your mind, but yeah, let's move on and not keep rehashing things that have already been decided.
Okay.
Wasn't certain if you were going to be getting into the specifics of the ones that were proposing to drop off.
That'll be next. That'll be next.
So just for the people to see, okay? So bringing it back, I believe, are there any other comments or questions or discussion or here or online? Oh, wait, sorry, is there any public online?
Oh, let me check. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. It's a road game, right? There's 3 members online and there's no hands raised.
And bring it back to you. Are there any other comments or questions from the committee? On the floor? Hearing none. Can I have I think we can do again the verbal,
Yes.
a verbal for all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No? Abstain? All right, that's it. So contingency looks good.
Okay.
So I would hope that we get through all the projects that are planned. So now the rest of this agenda item is the bigger agenda item, which is, we would, and I'll just remind us, we normally just come back and say, have any of these changed materially from what was voted on voting night?
So one has changed, and it was highlighted on the handout. It is replace and install new lights and poles at the Solicitor Ball Field. So that's project number 15. And it's gone up to 422,000
250.
from 175. So it went from 175 to 422. So that's the one that to date has been increased. And
So the first list is the same list that was voted on with one change. And the question is whether that change represents a material change from the voting night. So, and I'd like to, we to discuss this, I will put in that I thought the 175 was an underestimate of voting night, because we've seen this project in the past and we knew it didn't come in that low. So I was hoping that it would be this. So I'm not super surprised to see it coming in now. It's 122. So we have got comments on that. Significant. It's fine. So, right then. So then I think the only other order of business then is this discussion of the taking a staff recommendation to drop off approved projects from the list. And I will set the stage for the new people. This committee has always stood on its position that it spent the entire season gathering input from the public for what the public wanted. And it gathered it from the city, it gathered it from staff, but it gathered it from the public too. The votes on voting night represent all of those hours of public testimony and individual on the ground research. So when we look at the first list, option 1, that's the work that the committee did. And it is the committee's responsibility to be responsive to those individuals. There's nothing in here about option 2 in our guidelines, in our book. So, and I will also, for consequence, it's the first time this has ever been presented to this committee. And I understand there's great pressures coming to bear. And you're seeing it in this committee. So, do we want to have a discussion of the committee on what they would like to do? Do we want to have a motion on what we'd like to do? So let's just have some discussion first.
Yes, I'd like to understand staff's putting forward option 2. Where did that come from?
So, okay, well, yes, so we as a staff met when the projects were gathered before voting night, and in the agenda packet for the June 6th meeting, voting night, there was a memo that was included. I think it was attachment 3, or attachment 2. Sorry, it was attachment 2. In that attachment, it included several different tables. One were project staff supports, one project staff was neutral to, one that projects that staff did not support for various reasons. And we presented our rationale. One, for example, like, I can go down the list and see projects that were that we. Yes. But no, I'm just saying, so for, I can give you an example. I think the first one is item number 9 for Deer Flats DF-01, install electrical disconnect at Jocelyn Canyon. So it is it's staff's understanding that the Deer Flats HOA is responsible for maintaining common assets in Deer Flats. And it's our recommendation that NCIP does not use NCIP funds. NCIP committee does not recommend NCIP funds to fix and repair or make improvements on property that is the responsibility of Deer Flats Homeowners Association. For example.
That's an example.
That's an example.
In the meeting, discuss this very question in the review process. And I'm looking, do we have the representative from Deer Flats? Because that question was asked. And in the meeting, they addressed that question, that they could research it.
Yes, there are 2 representatives from Deer Flats. I'll let Dave Overton speak since he's more familiar.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was a project, the installation of those lights. But we found an issue because there is no disconnect for us to actually do the maintenance. So that was a project to improve the project, basically. we get the idea that NCIP would, use funds for maintenance purposes, but this was to improve the project so we actually could do maintenance. Because we can't right now do maintenance on an out fixture because it's connected to PG&E and we can't access that fixture until we can remove power. So it's an improvement to an NCIP improvement.
So 2 points. One, we had already done a project in this area. This could have been put on as an add-on, which was brought back to a separate project. The NCIP committee evaluated this very question and asked, can it do this work? Is this work necessary? Can somebody else do this work? Should somebody else do this work? And it was determined in the NCIP process that this was the solution that was recommended. And hence the vote that got was in the top 10. So, does that answer your question? Sure. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Other questions or comments on the option? Then,
Well, I'm just curious, what happens to these projects? They're just gone, even though we've already voted that.
yes, if they're dropped off here, if we decided as a committee to get rid of them, we are deciding as a committee to somehow re-vote. But we don't actually have the voting process here tonight. Remember, you have this whole special voting process with cards and that sort of stuff. So what we'd be doing was eliminating or making a later decision. But it would seem to no longer go forward. Now, this just reminds me, what normally happens is the list goes forward as is to city council. The city council has the ability to cross off any of those. And if there is a feeling that is very strong, the city council crosses it off. And generally that's where it's been. And generally the discussion at the city council meeting, when the representatives are there, is that they're looking at the hard work that the NCIP committee has done, and they're evaluating whether their personal information is very different from that. And generally, we do not have a lot of edits, but we generally as a committee are accepting and using the voting right and allowing the city as a part of its final say to make decisions. And one of the projects that's on here, one of the projects that staff left off of here is a project that we purposely put back on here because in the last funding cycle, the city took it off. So we came through and as a committee evaluated it again as a standalone and put it back on. Option 2 is taking that off without it even going forward to the city council. Yeah.
Just a real quick question. Reggie, you gave one example of why a project would not be supported by staff. Could you just briefly explain some other reasons why staff would not support a project that had already been recommended for, please?
I can, yes. So there's another one that's contentious, I'm sure. There's a proposed walkway through Presidio Park. The city staff have identified that as a project that would require a high level of permitting and review because it's archaeologically sensitive in that area. So we're recommending to not move forward with that project, even though it is one that has been voted on and ranked high enough where it falls under option 1.
And you,
I'm sorry, you had your hand up a long time ago. I'm sorry.
So just to clarify, this information regarding this, the staff comments, that was made available to the committee prior to the vote.
It was, yes, it was.
It was handed in advance and read by the committees before voting on it. Absolutely. So, and there are, at my count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 projects that have been picked out and delivered. So
what are those projects? It's not clear in any of the public documents submitted to the general public what those projects are. You got 2 lists. No highlighting them.
So
I mean, the public would like to know what it is you're talking about. And it was not available to the general public.
But
No, it's just called the prior discussion.
yeah, if anybody's.
yeah,
Sure, Shelley, go ahead.
So, as Reggie said, 9 with the Deer Flat, install that full disconnect at Falcon Canyon. Project 18 is the Ryan Ranch Pickleball Court construction funding. Item number 3 would be a Del Monte Casa Verde Way underpass mural. Number 24 was put back on. Number 27 is the Del Monte Beach install beach boardwalk lighting. Item number 33, new Monterey Lower City of Walkway Phase 2, which Reggie just talked about. Item 34, like Old Town, improve the tap from Harrison Street to Veteran Park. Number 37, the multi-neighborhood fire safety analysis and hazard reduction. 39 is the multi-neighborhood 12 bike repair station. And number 40 was the VFIU less speed reduction.
What was the second to the last?
The bike repair stations. The bike repair stations.
Thank you.
So, okay, so do we have more,
Can I make a motion?
Yeah.
To just approve option 1.
yeah, so what we do is we're gonna a motion and a second, and then we can go to comments and comments. So we have that.
You have to open it up to public comment, public comment, public comment.
So are there any other comments from the committee? And what we'll do is that we bring it back. But I think we've got a pretty good idea on this. Any comments from the committee online?
I would have loved to have seen each of these projects and an explanation why, in a separate table, explanation of why they were withdrawn.
Well, we've never had
Yeah.
any, this happened before, so there's obviously no something like that.
Yeah,
Just to throw this up, you know, that the staff's information was available to us before voting night, and I think there was a possibility that not everybody had time to digest it and include that information in the votes. I know what I felt was if it was kind of a last minute thing, you know, it could change my voting, but it could have played a bigger part in our vote decision.
But thank you for that. And I will also add that the committee did know about the city's position on the material items in here. For example, that's why the committee approved the murals on the underpass again.
Yeah.
Because they were taken off last year and the committee felt like that needed to be more clear and it was a priority.
So left Hilltop Park on, which was not supported,
Right,
but it's still here now.
so, other committee, online?
yeah, there's one, Scott.
Yes, request a point of clarification. The motion for option 1, does that include, is that going to cancel or the Deer Flats project that Dave Overton just talked about?
So, clarification, we're holding on the motion until after public comment. So we haven't made that motion yet.
Okay, sorry for the confusion about the point of order, but it's option 1, will a positive vote in option 1 delete and remove the Deer Flats project?
No, it's still, so option 1, to clarify, is the full list that was approved on voting night after the entire season of research.
Right.
Option 2 is the modified list. All right, so yeah, thank you for that clarifying. Other questions? Right, so.
I have just one
Oh,
comment.
sorry.
Sorry, this is AJ. No, I think this is like an opportunity for better communication that we talked about in the meeting with the city council. I think that was a point of emphasis for any type of feedback moving forward. I think that was reflected in some of the earlier comments, and just wanted to express an interest in not just a list of we would support or not support a project, but a little bit more context, and I think communication would help with that.
All right, thank you. Other comments from the committee? Not, then, how many people want to speak on this? I think this is important. It's 3 minutes.
Yeah.
We can leave till midnight because this is really important. So, so do you want to approach the podium? Do you want to start? Let's start.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, Eric Hoyer again, former chair of NCIP and a member for over 35 years since it started. This has never occurred in the history of NCIP. Voting night is voting night. We had the input of staff, chose to ignore it. The other thing, remember what NCIP was and why it was created. It was created because projects that neighborhoods wanted were not being done by the city and by city staff. It is not up to city staff to decide. We want their professional opinion and why it may not be a good idea. And then as members of this committee, we review that, we take that into account. And as the chair wisely said, at the end of the day, city council will vote to accept or reject items on the list. So they happen, and I am certain, as has happened in the past, you will have a city manager standing up there advocating against projects we've done. Most times, with a couple minor exceptions, city council has followed the desires of the commission because we spent all the time. To actually have this come up at this point in time almost makes it look like trying to take advantage of having new members who weren't part of the voting night and getting things to be changed, which is unfortunate because it's putting you in very awkward positions. But we reviewed the things. Now, personally, from my standpoint, if you look back on the history, I didn't vote for a number of these that want to have taken off. But that's beside the point. The committee gave them the points well ahead of other projects to do it. You should move forward with option one. Option two should not have been on the agenda tonight. And actually, one clarification, this meeting is about setting the cutoff line of what the list is that's going to be going to the city council. And that's why you're only seeing 35 versus 80. That's the project. So it's about have there been changes to the cost, but also what is the list that's going to go to the city council and where does that cut off? That's why you also are going to include cutoff projects, because if the city does remove any projects, those then move up and if there's money there to fund them. So it doesn't have to come back to the city, to the commission to vote on new projects or have to have that money go into next year. So that next thing, if things are removed, this whole process for that. But the commission has voted. The commission has heard hours and hours and hours of public comment. And the commission, for the first time, got a complete detailed list of staff concerns, ideas, input on every project. It would have been nice to have gotten that before voting night, but it ended up showing up on voting night instead of in the 8 weeks worth of time frame when we were doing other hearings, which would have been helpful and would have provided more opportunity, even taking account. I, for one, took it into account and chose to support some projects and not support some projects.
Time.
I'll start with a punchline. I think option one is really the only one. My observations are that in the past, if there was an issue with a project proposal, the staff would come to the proponent and try to work out why it was that that project was on life support, that it was going to have a difficult time getting through the process, and then try to work through those frailties so that it could have a better chance. So an example would be the Lower Presidio walk path. Well, saying it's hard, there's some permitting. I mean, if you work anywhere in the coastal zone or in a historic area, archaeologically sensitive area, there's going to be some more overhead associated with that. But we haven't even talked about the nitty-gritties of what that project would be. It could be a boardwalk. It could be pieces of wood on top of the existing asphalt. It could be asphalt on top of the asphalt. It could be concrete. It could be, I mean, there's been no specifics whatsoever. So how could they come to the conclusion that this is not worthy of being considered? It's premature for that to happen. So in the future, what I'd like to see is kind of going back to the past method of looking at projects. Now, some projects I can understand they're fatally flawed. Like I won't use this. I was going to use an example of one of what's on the list, but it's not fair to them. If, for example, it's a project on private property, that's a no. And staff needs to come to the committee right then and say, this is on private property. It shouldn't even go to voting night, period. End of that discussion. Not let it go forward. I mean, now is It's like we're halfway through the intersection and we're trying to decide which direction to turn. It was voted on. And hopefully the homework was done prior and we have enough assurance by voting night to know that, hey, legally, this can be done. And the other term we used to use is it engineeringly stupid? If it's something like, we want to build a ladder to the moon. Well, no, we're not going to build a ladder to the moon. That's not physically possible. Or something that would endanger people's lives. We're not going to do that either. But staff would come back to the proponent and say, you know, we can't put two-way traffic in a one-lane road and have them heading head-on into one another. Let's try to figure out what's your end goal? What do you want? And let's re-describe the project and then come up with the estimate based on that so that at voting night, you have information you need to vote on. So I think option one at this point is the way to go. And yes, the city council can do as they please. They can take, I've been the recipient of that. I had project removed, and as Rick Hoyer said, you need to have the next projects in line teed up so that if that happens, they
Time.
Thank you.
Hi, Jean Rash, Monterey Vista, past vice chair. Option one is your only choice. We certainly need and appreciate staff input, but it has to be within the procedure and timely submitted. That's the staff's obligation. We have a timeline. You need to meet those timelines. Please give us that feedback in a timely manner. I'd also suggest that, as Rick said, there's no precedent. We don't want to set up a precedent for going outside procedure. And I think if you do, you really ask for more alienation on the whole topic of staff and CIP relationships, provoked really by not following the procedures and not honoring the process. And as an attorney, I think you're going to get into legal trouble because you have this whole process that we do year after year, and you continually keep coming back to the public and changing the rules. And someday you're going to get big time burned.
I'm Gina Sessions, and I have a kind of different take on this, although I do agree with option one. And that's the things that came up seemed really, really important and reasonable when a group is making really critical decisions about the use of public funds. It seems like there is, and I'm pretty new to this, so it seems like there's not a procedure to vet those issues that really need to be a group decision, so that the city council people aren't left with kind of like, well, we're fighting, so you decide. It just doesn't feel like a really good process to me. So I would just vote for, from here on out, really taking the time for these things that really maybe shouldn't be going, and have a group think about it so that there's a real, a close to consensus view on what really should be.
Sharon White again. We used to have a really thick 30-page policy document. Now it's down to like 10 pages. But there has never, not once, ever in the procedure manual, ever been the possibility to second guess the vote of the committee. You voted, and it goes as a recommendation to the city council. I know the operation of this committee, and you have never, ever sailed through without looking at all of the possibilities, every angle, how can it be done. I trust that the committee did their work. And I don't believe you have a process that allows you to reconsider. You have nothing on the books that allows you to second guess what you already did. That having been said, obviously, I think you ought to go with option one, because I don't think option two even have any legal standing. But that aside, I'm going to talk about the Lower Presidio walkway. Reggie and I walked it. there's an existing drain line, you can put a boardwalk over that and not put a shovel in the ground. And where we didn't already have a path, you can do what you did before, which is put out some DG on top. It didn't require putting a stake in the ground. There's no reason that this can't be done. No reason at all. And I'll talk about the last one here about the bicycle maintenance. You've got a population of folks who have a problem with a bicycle. This originally was going to be offered by TAMC as a free. I don't know if it is, it doesn't look like it is now. It's something that we wanted to do. It would have been $10,000. The bicyclists deserve having some way to get home without carrying this. This is a good idea. It should not be pulled off of the list. I mean, I look at the list of things they want to pull. No. Just because it takes a little bit of extra effort, some things do. And if you want to have safety, if you want to have quality in your community, it takes a little bit of extra time and you do it right. Thank you.
Do we have online public comment?
I'm not seeing any raised hands. I see well, including you, there's 3 people online.
Sure. And then we can bring it back to the committee. So we've heard the public comment. Clarifying points, we talked about meeting 1 of the next cycle. We're looking at whether it's something NIP can do. Meeting 2, we're looking at the mechanics of it to see whether it's something we can do. Meeting 3, we're looking at the public support of it to see if it's something we can do. We're representing the people in that voting night. There are not any mechanics for an option 2 in the voting process. If there has not been a material change to the project that makes it not a project that we voted on. So it's kind of a fool's choice to put that in actually. But I wanted to have everybody have a chance to have the comments and understand and respect ideas that are brought to the committee. So are there other comments from the committee? Yeah.
I need to know why the city thinks that the underpass murals aren't a good idea, because I could take that back to our neighborhood and explain that. I think the ones that the city, again, this is a moot point because but in the future, if you do that, you need to give us a reason why, not just nix them.
And I'm going to say, I think the city council, if it takes it off the list, can you give a reason for taking it off the list? Right?
I would hope so.
So the rationale for the murals or not moving forward with the murals is that the property is owned by Caltrans and that Caltrans will put the responsibility for maintaining the murals back onto the city. And that's a position that the city doesn't feel like at this current time that we want to take on. So that's why, and there's going to be more discussion about the mural project at the next, when these projects go to city council. So I would say stay tuned, but there will be much more discussion on the mural project.
We appreciate that. The committee doesn't want to put you in the middle. Committee had a lot of discussions on this and felt very strongly about it. And so Reggie's just delivering the message, so we're not shooting the messenger. So thank you for that.
Fine, thank you. But I mean, I'm a representative of the city. I'm just presenting to you guys where we are, what's happening, and I mean, don't worry, I'm not taking anything personal.
We appreciate everything that's getting done. So, so this item on the agenda then is for the committee to review the project list and recommend it to the city council for the fiscal year 24-25. And so we can do that. And we can include the total projects and they're presented and calculated because I don't believe we will materially change from voting night either. We can have that discussion separately. So that's the item that we have in front of us today.
Just a question. Do we have to vote on the option 1 and 2 first before we start
the motion that we make can be what we want to do. And so if then the committee votes on it, and if the group doesn't agree that we want to, we then have some more discussion.
Well, don't let it do a motion.
Yes, we need a motion. So,
I move to stay with option one because we did voting night, we have the necessary information. New information comes in later, you can't revote. We're not gonna revote the process. The city council is the arbiter of the last resort. And we're the public space to try and get a recommendation to council. Council makes the final decision. The information comes in, council makes that decision. We had a vote. If we change that vote today, what's our vote mean? So I move that we accept number one. I
I'll
would
second
have,
that.
I would have appreciated in more detail and analysis of, these are the projects that we took off, like Chile put together. With the explanation, but that may have been in your memo on June 6th. I don't know.
The memo was only not recommended, there's no explanation.
Yeah.
so we have a motion to approve the list as voted on June 2nd, and we have a second to approve the list as voted on June 2nd. I think any other comments or questions, clarifying questions?
We're putting on that. If city staff does feel strongly on that kind of stuff, please bring it to our attention before voting, because we'd love to consider. And if it wasn't presented enough as a slide, if you were timely enough for us to see it, then that we need some help from staff.
And clarifying point, a number of these were brought forward, they were considered in, we clearly knew the city's opinion about pickleball courts and the mural. And we voted on them anyway, so you're giving them room, but the committee knew what it was doing. So we have a motion and a second. So call for the vote, all in favor of the list.
Oh, sorry, Jamie, hold on. Sorry, there, it looks like Dave Overton has his hand up.
Oh, Dave, sorry. Let's see that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so thanks. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So I agree with the discussion point that when this came in at voting night, I didn't really see the staff opposition to this. I have a concern if it goes to council this way, it still has that connotation that this is considered maintenance. And I would just like staff to reconsider that because, like I said, this is an improvement to a former NCIP project so that we can do maintenance. And I just think if it goes before the council this way, it still could be potentially eliminated by council, even though we all voted to support that Deer Flats project.
It's a clarifying comment for Deer Flats 01, install electrical disconnect. Instead of making an adjustment to a previously approved project, they brought it in as a second project, it's essential to the completion of the first project. And therefore, not an optional thing to remove. Thank you. Any other comments from online?
That was it.
Any other comments in the room? Yes. So, we have a motion and a second. It's your motion. We're never gonna get to it.
Deer Flats,
Uh-huh.
couldn't that be considered a contingency add-on?
I know, it could be, and that's my point.
We're not voting on that. I'm just-
So if,
That's all in the way.
so maybe we just to the next meeting.
Yeah, because we can't vote on it.
Right, exactly. All right, so we have a motion to approve the list of approved projects from June.
6.
6, and there was a second. I'm going to call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor say, all those opposed say nay. All those abstaining, abstain. All right, so that takes care of the list as it stands, and we left that as the list, which means that the contingency, the cutoff for the century. So.
That's the 35 in order and 4 contingency for a total of 39 projects. 4, it's 35 with 4 cut off for a total of 39 projects. Yes.
So y'all can just take that second printout. It's really confused, we're really working on this. All right, so that's it for agenda item number three. Next item that you, my third, I said, next item on the agenda is election of David inclusive chairperson and vice chairperson. And I asked for this to be on here because we are not without a full company at this point in time because of the changes that will happen. And so this body chooses who it wants as a chair and a vice chair. Kind of the main thing is making sure the meetings get run. So, and by the way, you do this because in the old days, the city got tired of being nagged at, so they wanted somebody else to be apostle. But no, the grand jury, I think, also recommended this structure. So, so we want to get that structure in place. And I do believe that there's a lot of work to be done. Liaising, communicating with city council, because I just don't think that we got across the global picture of what it is we're doing here and why it's important. So that is something we're going to be looking for in the leadership structure. So at this point in time, we need to maybe put out some nominations, and I will tell you, I don't have time to do the liaison, be the liaison. I don't have as much time to invest in this as I think it's going to take. So I'm going to nominate for chairperson Shinari, because she's from the Weasleys and she's been here a few years now and was getting the feel. It takes a while to get underneath. I think she has been here long enough to see the process and see how it flows, and I think would be a really awesome spokesperson for us. So I want to nominate her for that role of chairperson for the Incentive Committee. So are there any other should we do it separate chair and vice chair? Or
Yeah, I would do it separate.
She accept?
Yes, I accept.
Or now we're available.
Awesome. So any other folks want to volunteer for chairs in a runoff election? No? Online?
There are no hands raised. No.
Right. So then, shall I motion to?
Somebody has to, yes.
Be chair. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor say nay.
No, you mean opposed.
Sit down, you're gonna forget her. Are there any abstains?
I think it's,
So motion passed. Thank you so much. And then, so then the next part of this is to nominate a vice chair, who also will represent as an alternate spokesperson. And again, I'm a little short on time for doing all this connecting stuff. I'm totally here. I'm in the committee, it's a big cycle. I'm not going anywhere. But I would feel more comfortable having a vice chair. What is needed. So I'm nominate Dennis to be vice chair.
Here.
He's got the experience, so he can be the person that's being looked to for that continuity. I think. We're good like that. Now, Tammy, so any other nominees? Or
Well, I was gonna nominate Lee, but she was very happy about Dan and Dennis. So.
Everyone's going.
You know, you don't want to miss the wrong meetings, you know that.
You could end up doing the dishes forever.
Jamie, you are so eloquently escaping your. This is amazing. I am amazed.
So this is a healthy organization that's not controlled by one person or any one person's. We all know the good work that we do together, and we do it together. So I feel confident in all of you. So, and in particular in this leadership team. So shall I motion to nominate Dennis as vice?
I don't think I should motion for myself.
All right. Motion.
That looks like a dictatorship.
I'll second that.
All right, second one. All right, any comments, questions? Yeah, we do that. All right, all those in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Say nay. All those abstaining? Motion passes. Yay.
This is the first round on those two.
Yeah, yep. So.
He did accept the nomination, correct?
Yes, he did. Sometimes they say you can't vote for yourself and you can't. So
I
that's.
was gonna say, I know Stacy, you know, he's at Clinton's and both of these guys, so we apparently voted for ourselves.
You know you're gonna do a good job. So and then I'll go and since I'm sitting here and towards the middle, or if you want to finish up business. All right, so the only thing left,
Committee member comments.
and I'm gonna tell you, to me, it's just easier when it goes when it's physical order. So, so we could start with either, so I said, let's start with the people online, because they always go last. Do you have any committee member comments?
Scott has his hand up.
Just want to say thank you to everyone for taking it easy on us new rookies in the committee. Looking forward to learning more as we go through this next year cycle. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other online? All right, well then, let's start with Tammy.
It's been a very interesting year. And thank you all for the work that you do and our previous members as well. And I look forward to next year and hopefully things will be smoother.
I parrot Hans's suggestion that we get together and figure out some of these processes and get them in. It'll be helpful to the new members, to me, to everyone, I think.
Yeah, and then keep in mind, new members will have an already full big long
Sure.
fishing agenda.
Got it.
For sure. So, you want to reserve your comments to the last, as the chairperson gets to come to. All right, we'll do that.
Well, just thank you for the nomination and for the vote and confidence in me. I've really come to enjoy the committee and what we do. And I will do my best to represent everyone the best I can.
I'll let go mine in, keep in order. So I just want to emphasize again, this committee does an amazing job. It spends many, many, many hours. It is the strongest steward of public funds that I think anybody can put it to. I mean, you think the budget, look at the budget meetings that the city has. Nobody attends, not very many, I do. But our meetings are full of people working very hard on the money in detail, and you can't get better stewardship than that. So I think that you guys need to be keeping that in mind. I'm sure every new person and every old person up to that task, and you do an amazing job. So I'm looking forward to next year and do that again.
I think this is a very unique committee and that it listens to the public and what the public is looking for. In some cases, that's a conflict with the city, but it's what the public is looking for so that we can serve the people that need to serve. And that's really what we're here to do, is to serve our public. So I look forward to continuing with that because I believe the man in 25 years, not the 35 that some of the ex-members have, but it's been a while.
On to someone who is newly here, and I have to say, I have such respect for all this committee does as I continue to learn. And I just want to really thank Jamie. You put so much work on putting that in and giving that wonderful recap for those of us who are using this. So, like, what we can look forward to. So you've done an excellent job. And very, very much appreciated. And I love charts. Yep. So anyway, I'm just, I'm excited about being here. Very, very, very large shoes to fill. For sure, from all of you. Thank you.
I agree that we should have the meeting to fine tune our process. Really, and there's going to be holes in the ships, there always will, but to fine tune that process and then also bring our operating manual up to speed with that. So both our operating procedures and the manual are walking right, left together as a unit. I want to see us keep working together as representatives of our neighborhood to build and make a better city, working together as a team and just making good projects to make our city better. And getting through the things that we've been through, we're out of the sandbox. Let's stay out of it. And let's just go forward on a very, very positive. Yes, it can be done. Tweak it a little bit and then make it better. Positive attitude is going to get us to win that race all the way through. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to bring up the idea of having even more than one meeting, I think, between now and January to look at our process. I think we should meet among ourselves and decide how we're going to avoid getting into the problem we had before the pandemic, that we can actually get projects done that we promise our residents that we're going to do, that they don't sit around forever, that we can do them in a reasonable time, figure out how we're going to solve that problem. And also, I think we should then have a meeting with city staff, with Tyler, with Hans or whoever. Because we all live in one city. We got to make this work, and we're all in the same boat, so to speak. And we just need to work together and find a solution. So both city staff is have, we find a working compromise between the residents, the staff, the city. And we can make it work. Put the time in and figure out the proper way to make this process work so that we can get the projects done. And make promises we can. Thanks.
It's been not trying, but it's been an unusual year this year. But I think the joint meeting between NCIP and the city council has helped. It was a positive thing. And going forward, I hope Shaniri and the mayor, since he's found out he's now our liaison between the council and us, that we get more communication going in a positive direction. And the city council understands more of what we do and things that we look at. And remember, we talk about public input. We get a lot of public input. And that sways our vote, to be honest with you. It really does. So it's important that we keep that up. And Hans and Lisa, we really need to have another meeting or so to figure out our process and how we can better interact with this staff and thank you.
This was my second. A little better than the previous. I am excited and looking forward to contributing, and thank you for taking the time to clarify some things and explain it. It was really helpful. Tom Rowley has been really helpful to me also, and so I feel that I've been well received, and I'm just looking forward to everything.
In my 3 years, I've learned that it's never too soon to cast out the net for new projects, especially the ones that take more time and are more complex. To avoid some estimate of crunches, because it often requires a lot of input from city staff and neighbors, etc., to get the bigger ones. So get the word out any way you can. To your whole neighborhood, not just the neighborhoods.
This is my second meeting as well, and I just want to thank all the committee members for the hard work they did in these projects. I've watched quite a few meetings on YouTube and on the city's website. And it's hard work, and I appreciate all the work that you guys did to get these lists done. And I want to thank staff. As a former planner, land use planner for 2 counties, I know the difficult position you're in. You often get yelled at when you're just the messenger or just adhering to policies and regulations. So I want to thank you. It's actually why I left planning and coming from law enforcement. I know that you cannot be yelled at. So I want to thank you. I appreciate the hard work that you do and the not so pleasant aspects that you have to deal with. And I look forward to, this.
So that's a, yeah, so. Oh, we was. Okay, this is a countdown. So we're going to move it onward.
I don't know where I would fall in technically, so I just figured I jump up, and I just have to start off by saying that I appreciate each and every one of you. For those that are currently serving and for those that have served, this has been years and years worth of work to get to where we are today. And my hope is that, through the conversation, the joint session that we had with the council, that we can use that as a launching pad to dig deep. And I couldn't agree further with Hans' comment around, and a couple folks brought it up, around the need for us to have multiple conversations. I think it's going to be helpful for us to meet, maybe go back to our group's caucus, come back together again and do, have that back and forth a little bit. And my hope is that we can at least tie up a few things before you all begin the next iteration for the next set of applications. And hopefully we can feel that progress as we go through that. So Scenario, I'll reach out after your meeting here. We'll find some time to meet and we'll take things from there. So just appreciate what you all do. And thank you, staff, for I'm gonna go 3 minutes more. Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
That's it. No, she was not. She was not. What's that? She was asking if Jill. What? And the birthday of also is on. Oh wait, no, she is on. She is.